She came at my wife swinging a rake like she was about to joust in a medieval tournament. I'm not even kidding, that thing whistled through the air like she thought she was making a movie. The only problem was, she picked the absolute worst opponent. My wife ducked, caught the handle mid-swing with one hand. And calm as you like just said, "You ever try that again, and I'll teach you how gravity works." I swear to you, the whole block went silent. Karen blinked, stumbled backward, and landed butt first in her own flower bed like a villain in a bad cartoon. 20 minutes earlier, we were setting up folding tables for the neighborhood cookout. See, we moved to this cul-de-sac in Brookfield Grove because it was supposed to be quiet, predictable HO-regulated peace and beige harmony. You know, the kind of place where folks argue over what shade of tan is too bold for house paint. That was the whole appeal. We just wanted space, a garden, and enough silence for my wife to grow vegetables and for me to grill without drama. But then Karen moved in. 3 houses down. Blonde highlights, loud sunglasses, and a clipboard she called her compliance companion. She introduced herself by handing out printed bylaws, not cookies. And from day one, she made it very clear she believed every rule was meant to be enforced by her, personally, especially when it came to lawn boundaries. Ours happened to be the first one she fixated on. It started small. I walked outside one morning to find her kneeling on the edge of our yard, squinting down at the grass with a measuring tape in one hand and judgment in her eyes. My wife Lana was watering her tulips nearby, just minding her business. But I could tell by the way Lana's shoulders were set. She already clocked Karen and was choosing peace for now. Karen looked up and said, "Did you know your grass is creeping exactly 4 inches past your property line?" Lana didn't miss a beat. "Must be the wind." Karen snapped, "Wind doesn't grow grass." And Lana, still not even looking at her, said, "Neither does nagging." That was the first time I saw Karen's eye twitch. Not the last. Next day, a laminated fine appeared zip-tied to our mailbox, $75 for lawn overreach. Comic Sans font, I kid you not. Turns out Karen had gone door to door, gathering fake signatures to form a lawn subcommittee, and declared herself president. No vote. No warning. Just a title and a mission. We laughed it off until our sprinkler system stopped working. I checked the junction box wires had been snipped. A neighbor's kid swore they saw the sunglasses lady crouching nearby late at night, but Karen denied everything with a tone of righteous victimhood that'd make a priest suspicious. It kept escalating. Plastic flags began popping up in our yard, little signs stabbed into the grass reading things like, "This blade is trespassing," or "You're on notice." I wish I were exaggerating. It felt less like suburban landscaping and more like Cold War espionage, except with hose timers and passive-aggressive yard decor. But the tipping point came during the block party. We hosted every year burgers, lemonade, bounce houses for the kids. Lana was setting up folding chairs when Karen came marching over with a megaphone in one hand and her trusty tape measure in the other, barking into the speaker like she was leading a SWAT team. "You are in violation of HOA cookout perimeter regulations," she boomed, "by encroaching 2 feet beyond your lot line." Lana looked up, blinked, and asked, "You gonna fine us for putting a grill on grass too?" Karen curled her lip, looking around for support, but got silence. Then, out of nowhere, she shoved one of the tables, spilled the pasta salad, broke a plastic fork, caused a little scene. That's when Lana stood up. Karen grabbed a rake from beside the tree and took a swing. Now, what Karen didn't know was Lana isn't just my wife. Before we had kids and she got into gardening, she was known as the Valkyrie. 10 years in regional MMA circuits. Fought on a few televised undercards. Trained at legit gyms. Lana had retired, sure, but she hadn't forgotten a thing. So when Karen swung that rake, Lana didn't even flinch. She stepped to the side, caught it mid-arc, twisted it from Karen's grip, and gently guided her downward onto the grass. Not violently, gracefully, like she was folding laundry. Karen landed on her rear with a gasp, stunned. Whole block froze. It wasn't rage or ego that moved Lana that day, it was instinct. She de-escalated with style. But to Karen, that moment was humiliation. Her illusion of power crumbled right there on the lawn. And of course, she didn't take it well. By morning, laminated flyers were taped to every mailbox. Headlines screamed, "Say no to violence in our community." Karen had rewritten the story now. She was a heroic civilian. Lana was a trained combatant. and the rake incident was a physical ambush. She even made up quotes like, "I don't start fights, I finish them," and claimed to fear for neighborhood children. She summoned an emergency HOA meeting. We arrived early. The room was packed. Karen entered in a black shawl and oversized sunglasses like she was testifying before Congress. She claimed minor spinal trauma, pointed at Lana, and called her a walking weapon. Then Lana stood up. "I'm a retired athlete. I've never harmed a neighbor. What happened at the cookout wasn't violence, it was redirection. You came at me, Karen. I didn't strike you. I let you fall." From the back, someone muttered, "Folded you like laundry." The room erupted into quiet laughter. Karen's face turned beet red. She tried to regain control, called for a motion to restrict anyone with martial arts training from unsupervised use of public spaces. It didn't pass. But Karen wasn't done. She started shadowboxing in the HOA gym. Brought a guy named Daryl who claimed to be her coach. Daryl wore wraparound shades, carried an energy drink at all times, and couldn't land a spin kick to save his life. They made flyers, announced a community self-defense exhibition to take place, right, you guessed it, on our disputed lawn space. That Saturday, cones were set up. Karen showed up in a pink tracksuit bedazzled with HOA Avenger on the back, wearing a mouthguard and flexing like she was walking into a title match. Daryl announced her like a pro wrestler. People brought popcorn. Lana? She strolled out late wearing flip-flops and sipping a smoothie. Karen screamed, "So you've come to fight?" Lana took a sip and said, "I live here. You're the one with the entrance music." Karen lunged. Lana sidestepped, tapped her lightly on the hip, and Karen caught off balance, tripped over her own garden cone, and face-planted into the lawn. Again, everyone saw it. Phones out. Videos went viral. The internet called it lawn fall. A neighbor posted a slow mo with dramatic music. A bakery down the road offered Team Lana cookies. Even the local news picked it up. Suburban dispute ends in unexpected takedown. Karen, predictably, filed a complaint. Claimed Lana weaponized her silence. Demanded the HOA issue a restraining order banning her from common spaces. She showed up in a neck brace, waving screenshots of memes and blurry photos. The board listened. Lana stood and said, "This isn't about safety. This is about pride." Karen embarrassed herself and wants someone else to blame. The motion was denied. But that wasn't the end. More stories started surfacing. Karen yelling at kids for sidewalk chalk, trying to find a neighbor for painting shutters too vibrant, reporting gardeners for using unapproved mulch. Turns out she'd pulled this in other neighborhoods, too. One woman, Deborah, drove in from 2 towns over just to confirm it. Said Karen once left dog poop on her porch over a disagreement about Christmas lights. The final straw? A neighborhood-wide vote. Karen was removed from the board, 73-5. She packed up and left. Lana was asked to join the board. She declined. "I'd rather spend my Sundays growing tomatoes," she said. But she started offering free self-defense classes instead. Not to train fighters, but to teach boundaries. Confidence. Control. The lawn grew back. The flags were gone. Peace returned. But every so often, when someone new moves in and asks about that patch of grass, we just smile and say, "That's where Karen tried to win a turf war and lost to a smoothie." So tell me, how do you think? Was Lana right to stand her ground? Should quiet strength always win over loud control? Drop a comment below and let me know, because in neighborhoods like this, sometimes the biggest fights start with the smallest blades of grass. And just when we thought the drama had finally wilted with Karen's last petunia, we got one last surprise. About 3 weeks after she moved out, a letter showed up in our mailbox. No return address, just our names, written in cursive so shaky it looked like it was done on a bus ride. Inside, one sheet of paper, centered text, typed in bold italics. It read, "You may have won, but you humiliated me." Beneath that, a sketch of a broken rake. And at the bottom, the words, "Beware, public revenge is still revenge." We stared at it in silence. I looked at Lana. She raised one eyebrow, then quietly folded the letter, walked to the kitchen, and dropped it straight into the shredder. Didn't say a word. Just turned on the blender and made another smoothie. We later found out we weren't the only ones. At least 4 other neighbors got strange farewell notes. One was written entirely in rhyme. Another came with a pressed flower and the phrase, "My last bloom here." One guy got a fake HOA violation for excessive peacekeeping. Karen had officially entered her villain in retirement era. But here's the thing, her exit did something none of us expected. It made the community better. The HOA board, now Karen-free, rewrote several bylaws to prevent one person from issuing citations without a vote. Fines now require time-stamped video evidence. Transparency increased. People started actually attending meetings not to argue, but to listen, contribute, solve things together. Lana's Sunday self-defense class kept growing. By the 5th week, she had over 50 people, parents, teens, retirees, all learning how to carry themselves with quiet strength. Officer Ramirez started joining regularly. A yoga studio nearby offered to partner. It stopped being about Karen a long time ago. It became something else, something real. A month later, a local news station did a short feature on the neighborhood titled, "The Woman Who Taught Peace with Her Palms." They interviewed Lana during one of her classes, caught her saying, "You don't need to raise your voice to protect your space. Sometimes, standing still is the loudest thing you can do." It aired on a Sunday evening. By Monday, she had 3 offers to speak at community leadership events. One of them was from the city council. I teased her about it, called her the grass whisperer. She just laughed and said, "If you keep that up, I'm making you the assistant coach." And life moved on. Kids played in the cul-de-sac again. People started waving more. There was less pettiness, more neighborly help. The only trace of the past was a small flower bed where Karen's trophy had once stood. Someone planted zinnias there. They bloomed bright and cheerful, completely unbothered. It's funny how something that starts as a petty turf war over grass can become the spark that realigns an entire community. Turns out, sometimes the loudest voices aren't the ones that matter most. It's the quiet ones, the steady ones, the ones who refuse to swing back unless they absolutely have to. That lawn, it's still there. It still grows. But now, it stands for something more than property lines. It stands for boundaries, for balance, for knowing when to fight and when to just let someone fall into their own mess. And maybe, just maybe, Karen's out there somewhere, pacing another lawn, tape measure in hand, waiting for her next round. But if she is, I hope she remembers that it wasn't a punch that brought her down. It was pride. So what about you? Would you have handled it differently? Would you have gone quiet like Lene, or would you have let your rake do the talking? Let me know in the comments. Let's hear your take. Because if there's one thing our neighborhood learned, it's that every square foot of lawn tells a story. And some stories you don't forget. Ever.